What isn't a society pretends is a necessity. I've recently been going through a bit of a granola transformation, and I never really got the problem with consumerism until now. I knew there was waste and people were just buying stuff for the dopamine hit, and a lot of it is unnecessary, but I didn't get the real problem with it. Suddenly, it dawned on me what mass production really means. You have suppliers who just make a ton of stuff, not really knowing if any of it is going to be sold or if it's going to the landfill. They get to sell off whatever quantity to retailers, who are gambling on being able to get people to buy it. But what happens when no one wants to buy it? How many products are made in the hopes that someone will be interested enough to exchange their money for that dopamine hit and a piece of plastic? What happens to all the leftovers that don't get sold? Straight to the landfill. Then there's how low quality everything is. I remember this example from my childhood because my dad tried to explain it to me like this. Say you have a pair of scissors, and the blades are getting dull. What do you do to rectify the situation? Well, your scissors are still 99% completely functional, the blades just need to be sharpened. But who sharpens scissors? You can just head down to Walmart and get a new pair for $2, so why bother putting the effort into maintaining the perfectly good product you already own? So those 99% good scissors go straight to the landfill. It's a gross system we've built where everything has to be new, but we make so much more stuff than could even be purchased by our population to hedge our bets on who's getting to buy what. If you go out shopping now, you'll still see Christmas decorations and clearance because not enough people bought those decorations this year, so they're marked down to move them, otherwise they'll just be sent to the landfill. I really want to live with less, but our systems are built in such a way that it's hard to break away from it. I try to buy one good product that will last instead of cheap ones that need to be replaced, but even this doesn't seem to help because it just means that's one less person bringing this crap into their home so it sits on the store shelf until it's time to be dumped. It's a systematic problem, but so many people are dependent on fast shopping that it is not the best interest of anyone to try to curb this habit. Capitalism, while great at getting us industrialized in the first place, has really screwed over our world and has no reason to stop. I've been thinking about what to do about it, and the best I can come up with for this particular problem is an excess inventory tax, where producers have to pay a tax for whatever product doesn't get sold and goes to waste. It would drastically change the calculation of how much to produce to try to minimize the tax. The problem is tracking it, because itemizing your garbage is difficult when no one really gives a crap about it, and even if a system was in place, it would be hard to get corporations to willingly admit to it. They'd probably mark the missing inventory as stolen and carry on. I like the idea of charging for externalities because it isn't reasonable for corporations to be able to pollute for free. We have so many issues with contamination of air, water, and land that the polluters never pick up the bill for. Why is it so often that these companies get to pillage our resources and then the taxpayer ends up cleaning up afterwards? This turned into kind of a directionless rant, but I'm passionately upset about so much of what our society has done to ourselves, and I desperately want to avoid the future that's predicted for my children to live through. But old men who will be gone in the next 30 years are calling the shots, so my children will get to suffer so the ultra-wealthy can afford another yacht today. This is exactly the boots theory of economic justice. The idea being that rich people could pay $50 for a pair of boots that would last them a decade, while poor people were stuck buying a pair of boots for $10 that would fall apart in a year. The poor people would end up paying twice as much for lower quality boots than the rich person just because they could afford more at the start. Now we seem to revel in the idea that things are disposable. It doesn't help that people will say things like, if you buy the cheap thing now and put the difference in the stock market, you'll make enough that you come out ahead, and create the sense that buying the cheap thing is actually more financially responsible. It's better in so many ways to buy the quality product that lasts, especially environmentally. That's why the first of the three triangles is reduce, because using less stuff is the best thing we can do for the environment. So when you need to get something, you're so much better off getting something that will last and not going through the same amount of resources 10 times because it's cheaper to buy a new whatever every year than maintain a good one. I was recently out at a home decor store and saw some people fawning over a completely useless decoration that they desperately wanted but didn't have a place for, but they were just going to buy it anyway. I was like, damn, look at all this stuff that was made in the hopes that someone would see it and feel like they needed it in their life, even though it brings no actual value to them. That sent me down this rabbit hole of thinking about just how wasteful all of our production methods are and how much gets thrown away because we produce so much more than we could ever need. This isn't just for clothes and decor. It extends to food and cars and other things that people think they need in their lives, and yet so much doesn't make it to an actual consumer and is simply thrown away. It's unbelievable how wasteful we are and how we wouldn't give it up because it's what we know and like now. Oh, and granola transformation is going from being a typical wasteful North American to at least trying to take on a suitable local mindset. Like, changes that I made recently are to start buying shampoos and soaps and all that from a local no-waste bulk store, so I reuse packaging instead of buying new bottles every time. That has been shipped in from China. I get a bus pass and use my bike as often as possible. My family is down to one vehicle, and that's because my wife works out of town for the moment, but we're hoping to change that going forward. I try to get fresh meat and produce from the farmer's market instead of at big box supermarkets, and try to eat meat a lot less. I did vegetarian for a few months, but I still like meat, so I have a serving or two a week. I bake my own bread and try to get that locally as well. For Christmas, I got the turkey from a local farm instead of a grocery store. I grow all my herbs in my back garden, except it's winter right now, so unfortunately, they are buried under the snow. It's basically realizing how wasteful a lot of the habits we have in Western countries are and trying to live more sustainably. I'm far from actually reaching any sort of sustainability since our systems are all built around consuming and it's hard to get away from that. For every shampoo bottle I don't send to the landfills, I will still end up buying a coffee in a disposable cup and have just as much impact. So I'm trying, but it's really hard to actually make an impact. Unfortunately, you can only influence your small sphere of the world. The rest is beyond your control. If it's any consolation, the only constant is change, and every large movement starts from small beginnings. Also, crisis and opportunity are two sides of the same coin. As we face the fallout of our poor decisions as a society, it will open the door to trying new systems. Story 2. Some people are so adamant to comparing their lives to others when they should really strive to be the best they can be. Trying to outperform others leads to endless frustration, but trying to outperform yourself leads to true improvement. Especially with work, people put so much focus on having a good job. I work in a relatively low-paying job, but I'm happy. A career was never an interest to me. I cannot commit my mind to work I don't care about. One of my friends had a well-paying job. He went around companies trying to sell plastic wrap. I couldn't fathom doing that. He hated it. He had more money, but the work was miserable. My job is physical. I don't have to interact with people and I listen to music all day. It is perfect for me. So why should I want his good job? Society tells me I should strive for that because money and almost shames you for not wanting more. For me, it's all about hobbies. Having the necessities to live and having people you care about. That's happiness. Story 3. Staying up late and waking up early. If I go to sleep, I'll have to wake up and do work. I must stay up. That time is my time. Oh, and when you feel you don't get enough me time during normal day hours, it becomes so tempting to steal them from your much-needed sleep. This is a vicious cycle. Since being sleepy during the day at work makes you less productive and more stressed out, leading you to crave even more me time, which again, you steal from your sleep. Been there, done that, and I can tell you the consequences are absolutely not worth it. Story 4. Having to upgrade your electronics every couple of years. Seriously though, a battery replacement makes a phone almost feel brand new. When I swapped over to a Galaxy S8 from an iPhone 6 almost 4 years ago, I gave my iPhone 6 to my partner's mother as she had an iPhone 4S at the time. The iPhone 6 was going a little slow, but she paid about 70 New Zealand dollars for a battery replacement and suddenly the phone was almost as good as new. Sped right up and everything. If phones had replaceable batteries like they used to, a lot more people would keep them longer. It's insane that the lifespan of your phone is limited to the lifespan of your battery. Oh, and since you're already halfway through the video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. Story 5. Alcohol is so casually consumed and it's basically poison. I live in the Pacific Northwest and drinking before 5 is normal. Business people will have beers at noon during a work meeting. If you hang out with friends, it means going out for beers. The other day, I went for coffee around 12 and I saw a mom with her toddler at the tap house next to the espresso bar and she was having a pint while her daughter ran around. There are a lot of tap house or food truck venues where I live and if you don't drink, it's taboo. It's a microbrew haven here. I used to drink quite a bit, but I took a break because I realized how impossible it was to have a social interaction without drinking, and I don't even enjoy it that much. I prefer grass. I certainly don't judge people who drink, and I might drink again, but it's been a month and I feel significantly different. Story 6. Here's a few that comes to mind. Number 1, relationships. It is okay to be alone. A rule I've learned is never start a relationship until you can be happy on your own. Fear of being alone traps a lot of people in toxic relationships. I used to take myself out for dinner and a movie. I used to buy myself flowers because those things just made me happy. $8 for flowers to brighten your room for a week isn't a bad deal. I'm in a relationship and happy to know I'm there for love, not out of fear. Number 2, fast food or unhealthy food. For as much time as you spend in line for fast food, you can throw together a simple, nutritious meal. The real curve is spending enough time in the kitchen that your knife skills are up to snuff and you can piece together a menu from looking at your fridge. Number 3, being a fully grown adult who knows exactly what they want to do and know how to do it as soon as someone turns 16 or 18. You're still a child and the pressure other people put on you is normally down to their insecurities about the decisions they made at your age, because if they were miserable then you should be too. My advice is to experience life and experiment with it. Try everything and you'll find what you like and what person you are whilst making memories. 4, coffee. I agree, but I'm not going to stop pretending. 5, getting stuff delivered ASAP, or getting most stuff delivered at all. My sister was upset that her Kleenex brand paper towels she uses to remove makeup wouldn't be in for 4 days. She lives 2 blocks from a supermarket. The idea of going there to get them seems to have not even occurred to her even when I brought it up. Number 6, sugar. Cup of coffee. Sweeten it. Water? Pfft, no. Carbonated sugar water. Actually healthy baby food and snacks? Absolutely not. Add some sweetness to it. Sugar affects all aspects so bad to the point that society doesn't even consider snacks good or any foods to be tasteful unless there is some sort of sweet factor to it. Number 7, gambling. Compulsive gamblers tend to remember the highs of the wins and block out all the times they lose. The excitement of the next win distorts their reality and the level of risk they are taking with their money and possessions. 80% of adults have gambled at least once in the past year, and although most people have a fun and healthy relationship with it, the safe zone for gambling is if betting losses result in an inability to meet your regular financial obligations or provoke illegal activity, and steps must be taken to change the destructive gambling behavior. Story 7. Mom culture. The idea that mommy needs wine all the time, dragging down moms that don't agree with you. And as someone who's childless currently, the idea that we are not allowed to speak to you and offer any kind of advice because you don't have children. I literally gave a new mom ideas on how to help her baby with gas. After dealing with it with my niece for a while, and she told me she didn't want my input because I don't have kids. But the mommy needs wine culture really bothers me. My friend is a mom and was in a few local mom FB groups. They were so toxic, and she finally realized how much these moms she didn't even know were bothering her, left all of the groups, and she was so glad she did. She also agrees about the wine. The number of parents, not just moms, she knew who posted pics of all the alcohol they'd need because schools were going back online for a couple of weeks after Christmas was surprising. Story 8. Car dependence in most old world countries. Some American cities seem to be dreamt up by car companies who also smashed public transport in the process. You can get everywhere in the city with public transport or by bike. But what if you need to suddenly transport something that is just too large for a bike trailer but not too large for a car trunk? And what if it is snow outside making too cold to bike? Proceeds to book a week at a ski resort, skiing for 12 hours every day and negative 15 degrees Celsius. And maybe you want to support car-dependent infrastructure because of people that have health issues hindering them from biking or getting to and from public transport stations. Ignoring everyone with health issues, barring them from driving, kids, elderly, realizing their lack of driving fitness. Story 9. Personal conformity or conformance in general. People more often than not base their life decisions and choices upon other people's perception and their outlook towards you, based on those decisions. Sure, you can argue that it keeps the society together or whatever, but the number of people who go on to regret their decisions or choices later on in their life is just too damn high. So many lives ruined or missed, but we pretend it's a necessity, even when the society would not inevitably collapse if personal or individual conformance would deviate from time to time. Story 10. Righteous indignation. From left and right, it gives people an endorphin rush to create an internal narrative where they can then point a finger at someone else and say, "There's a bad person. There stands evil, right there." It stands at the root of every one of our societal divisions. Rich versus poor, ageism, you name it. It happens on a small scale and on a large scale. It is monetized and co-opted by many corporations, not all. Religious, not all. Politicians, not all. And scammers, many, but there are other things they exploit instead. This dependency is treated by most in our society as a good thing. It is not. Story 11. Cigarettes, mainly in America. Vapes have been under heavy fire for a while, and really for good reason, but I can't believe cigarettes are just getting away with being pretty much a paper vape. Cigs are such a normalized dependency, it's sickening. You could walk into a random house and there's a good chance you'll smell cigarette smoke. Maybe I'm biased because I watched my grandparents nearly pass away from smoking while also saying they could quit at any time. Not only is it super unhealthy, but it just gives people an unhealthy mindset. Story 12. Obsessing over celebrities' personal lives. I don't give an F who's dating who had a baby, who got divorced, etc., and I don't understand why anyone else does. Random story. Before cell phones, when I was in elementary and middle school, I shared a bathroom with my older sister before she left for college. There would be piles of celeb gossip magazines in there. I had some bowel issues during this time, and it took me a while to do my business. With nothing else to read, I would bust them open. I was probably the most celebrity up-to-date kid out there. In middle school, this became a weirdly attractive thing to girls, on how up-to-date I was in celebrity gossip. Could also dish out the gossip with even the most up-to-date people. Once I got a Game Boy Advance for Christmas and my sister moved out, I lost all my knowledge of these things and have never cared ever again. Story 13. Unlimited growth. The great inflator. We need to make more money than last year. But last year we had that viral video that spiked sales and made more money than anyone in the world. No excuses, 10% more this year. Better up all the prices then. There's an issue where I work. The targets keep increasing, even during periods where it's expected that we would get less money. At the same time, there's a huge focus on cutting costs and moving as many positions as possible offshore. For the last couple of years, we've been getting praise for reaching impossible targets because people are not working harder than ever. And in the next sentence, the goalposts move and we're told, but it's not enough for the shareholders. Also, we'll be doing a couple of organizational changes for next year. Read, one person from every team have to be fired because we said so. And online, you read about the record profits and shareholder payouts that just happened. I work in a fairly saturated and competitive market as well, so there's not really that much wiggle room when it comes to getting new customers. The only way to reach the target is by providing a better service than the competitor at a lower price and poach some customers from them. And every year we're supposed to do it by spending less money and with experienced senior employees or consultants being replaced with the cheapest Indian guy we can find. It seems on paper we're just the cost that shareholders would love to just erase. They don't seem to realize that the employees are necessary to actually do the work and generate revenue. Rule number 1 is you can't cut your way to profitability. You want to save money? You have to invest money. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you made it this far, I'm sure you'll also enjoy what has become so normal it isn't considered wrong anymore. Story 4 was crazy. See you in that video.